This is the London residence of multi-millionaire lawyer Giovanni Di Stefano, scourge of the British legal establishment, hero of the British criminal establishment.
Hi boys, come on in. Don't expect him to answer the door in his own home, do you?
I'll follow you, Michael.
Yep, come out there.
This is Michael, his son and protege.
Sandra?
Yeah?
You got that now. Who have you had a letter from just...
From Jeremy Bamber, asking if you represent him, and he's seen you in the media representing various people. Very happy to take on my case.
How about that? Jeremy is in full Sutton as well. Bloody hell, Jeremy Bamber, who else? 5 murders. I should be known as Mr. Murder.
Who is he then?
Well, he's a man that allegedly, some years ago, allegedly, and he was convicted, and you can't go behind that allegedly killed his entire family, his mother, father, sister and 2 children. He has professed his innocence throughout, and his case was refused, and I mean, there's some serious doubt there, whether he did it or didn't, I just don't know, but obviously this is the type of case that we are bound to attract because of that, but you can't pull a rabbit out of a hat on every case. It's impossible to win always. But I'll take his case.
Mr. Murder, the devil's advocate. Giovanni Di Stefano is no ordinary lawyer. He boasts fabulous wealth.
I got more than 200 million quid. I don't want to bloody die because I want to spend it first.
A mysterious past.
I went to Yugoslavia and I was under the Italian fucking bombs.
And heavyweight criminal connections.
Well, I don't act for Snow White, do I? Unless, you know, she's with the 7 perverts.
We entered Giovanni's world for 3 months to discover why a man, reckoned to be worth hundreds of millions, would suddenly want to dedicate his life to emptying British prisons of their most notorious criminals.
Let's go to court, come on.
Giovanni's client base includes M25 killer Kenneth Noy, the godmother Linda Black Widow Calvi, the timeshare fraudster John Goldfinger Palmer, and notorious property tycoon Nicholas van Hoogstraten.
Buongiorno. Buongiorno. Un tè e il toast, per favore.
In recent years, Giovanni has become very successful in these high-profile cases and has made many enemies too.
One of the handicaps of the job, obviously some interesting well-wisher sent me a brochure. A nice brochure, if that's not a lovely message. Now, the thing is I actually like some of them, so I might even order one. Thank you very much, whoever thought of me. Come on. Our personal life must not interfere in our professional obligations.
Giovanni seemed an unlikely crusader for defending the seemingly indefensible. We wondered, was it really for the sake of justice, or for the money, or just for kicks?
Well, I'll be there in about 10-15 minutes. I'll be outside the court there.
Giovanni has surrounded himself with a hand-picked team of some of the sharpest operators in criminal law.
OK. See you.
Men like South London solicitor Paul Martin,
Giovanni says good morning.
a specialist in overturning convictions by unearthing mistakes in legal paperwork or flaws in the evidence, and barrister Jerome Lynch, car salesman turned hotshot QC.
Greetings, chaps. Hi. Hi, Richard.
Today they are meeting to discuss Giovanni's latest client, Nicholas van Hoogstraten. Van Hoogstraten is an infamous property tycoon serving 10 years for the manslaughter of a business associate. Worth several hundred million, he's well known for his controversial business methods. So we were surprised by Giovanni's take on him.
Well, I have to tell you, honestly, when he was active in London in the 60s and 70s, he was an idol of mine when I was a schoolboy. The dash, debonair character, the boy that had made it from nowhere to something. He drove the right car, he had the right length of hair, he had the right property, and I admired him. Never thinking that one day I would ever be in the position to perhaps even go close to saying that I would help him. But it's been great for that reason.
Really?
Giovanni's team arrive at the Royal Courts of Justice to argue that Van Hoogstraten be released on bail pending their appeal against conviction. It's his biggest case so far. On this occasion, he didn't get the result he was hoping for.
How'd it go?
Very well, very well. Their bail was refused, but there are other aspects of the case which perhaps are far more interesting and which will develop. I mean, it's wrong. I mean, I swear to God, if it had been any other person, Nicholas Van Smith, he'd have got out today.
You've got your work cut out with Hoogstraten. He's not a popular guy, is he?
No, well, I mean, that doesn't help, of course, but it doesn't mean to say that we should abandon a person like that simply because we've got our work cut out. Our work cut out means we've got it cut out, and we'll bloody well cut it out.
Doesn't seem we're very popular with taxes, does it?
No.
Reverend Richard Buster Page, a former bodyguard to the Saudi royal family, is Giovanni's best friend.
So many solicitors will not take on these cases because it scares them. Throw it right here, Cook. No, don't.
Yeah.
What do you mean it scares them?
They're frightened of fighting the system. They take it for granted because the man's high profile that it's going to do their career harm by taking on the case.
Giovanni, though, seems to relish defending the blackish sheep of the criminal flock.
Volaron las amarillas, calandrias de los nopales, ya no cantarán alegres.
A week later, we're invited to join Giovanni in Tenerife.
A la tirana no, ya no cantarán alegres.
He's managing the property empire of another of his clients, John Goldfinger Palmer. As rich as the Queen, Palmer is currently serving 8 years for a timeshare scam that made him over £30 million. Investigators said he defrauded 17,000 victims that included retired couples. But Giovanni insists they've all got it wrong.
The average everyday Mr. Joe Soap, as we call them, would have a problem coming out on holiday. It's thanks to him that people have been able to dream about the sun. And he's made it possible.
I mean, 17,000 victims is quite a lot.
Bullshit. There's 200. Absolute rubbish.
Though Giovanni thinks it's rubbish, the Court of Appeal disagreed, and Palmer must now stump up £33 million in fines. Undeterred, Giovanni is trying to stop the payment, as well as being Palmer's business advisor.
You know, the troubles are that when you are an absentee landlord, you know, your tenants can sometimes run wild. So with my presence and my advice, and people know that I am
his lawyer and his friend. Nothing says you can't be a friend to your client. You know, obviously people have backed off and not extracted the urine.
Giovanni is staying at this five-star hotel that he says Palmer was instrumental in building. Your dad really admires John Palmer, doesn't he? Kind of contrary to everybody else.
He's got a good business mind. Anyone that can think of that can turn that, nothing, into that, has got to be doing something right. Forgetting anything else about it, you can only have admiration for this, because it really is beautiful.
What about his timeshare business? What do you think about that?
I don't really know enough about it to comment. As far, I mean, if you can go there, you can get a taxi and go and see it. It looks fantastic. You go and ask anybody there, no one's disappointed. I've been there before. Everyone's smiling, children running around, everyone's happy. Nobody's disappointed.
Palmer's timeshare empire is about to be destroyed. His only hope is Giovanni's audacious High Court bid that there's an error in the £33 million confiscation order. Throughout our stay in Tenerife, he has been waiting for the news, and the result is due tonight. If he wins, it will be Giovanni's biggest coup yet, and one of the most expensive and humiliating blunders in British legal history.
Who would have thought?
So, what's the news?
Well, owing to a serious procedural mistake by the Crown Prosecution Service, Mr. Palmer will now keep all the resorts in Tenerife. He will now keep £33 million that he should have paid, and we are very content that, well, I'm very content, for one, that justice has been done in the legal manner.
But in layman's terms, what mistake did the prosecution make?
They served the wrong notice on confiscation. It's very simple.
What should they have served? I mean,
A right notice.
which was...
Section 72. It's technical, but it's the wrong notice. That's all you need to understand. They served the wrong form. It means that the resorts can carry on. They don't have to be sold. 33 million is kept, and good for the lawyers. I suppose it must be quite interesting, really, for you, because it isn't the average, everyday type lawyer mannerism. You'd expect a lawyer, I suppose, to go to his country home in Esher in Surrey or somewhere like that, or Clavering in... there you'd have his city office, people running around, pinstripe suit, and speaking all la-di-da. Well, I can do that as well, of course. Just depends who I'm with. But I prefer to speak it exactly as it bloody is, so people make no misunderstandings. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you.
I mean, how do you differ from the normal lawyer?
I'm better.
What is your real kind of motivation in life now? Now you've got the money and...
Keep it.
I'm glad that with Mr. Palmer's case, how it went. Because if it wasn't him, if you've got to go back, let's go into the archive and take out all the documents and how many people were convicted without following the procedures. If you're going to convict someone, you've got to do it properly, or not at all. People in the future set a precedent. If anything, he's raising the levels of the legal system in England. People have to see it that way. You need someone to point out your mistakes so you don't do it again. So he's raising the standard. It can only be a good thing for the British legal system.
A fortnight later, Giovanni's back in London for Van Hoogstraten's appeal against his conviction for manslaughter. It's a big day, but Giovanni's playing it cool.
If justice is to be done today, whether we like Mr. Van Hoogstraten or not, he's got to be cleared. It's simple as that.
Giovanni believes that his legal team have found a flaw in the original trial. If he's right, the conviction should be quashed, and Hoogstraten will be one step closer to freedom.
As you are all aware, the appeal of Nicholas Van Hoogstraten was heard today before Lord Justice Rose, Mr. Justice McComb and Mrs. Justice Cox. That appeal was successful and the conviction for manslaughter was quashed.
Late last year, with a fresh set of lawyers, Van Hoogstraten finally walked free. Giovanni's celebrations began much earlier.
We won! God bless the day that I fucking met you, mate. How is it that we always find these simple little points?
Well, you can't bank on them always.
Listen, I'm happy with the two that we've done.
Yeah, well,
Palmer and Hoogstraten, the richest, well, supposedly the richest men in penal history.
Can say that. Left on Palmer.
He's not interested in politics, he's just interested in money. That's all Hoog's interested in. But they see that because of my past with Zimbabwe, which you don't need to know about, but I have a history with Zimbabwe. They see him and I together, stop. They see the vengeance, they see the MiG jets. What's going on between them?
Vengeance, MiG jets, Zimbabwe. What was all that to do with miscarriages of justice? It was time to dig deeper into Giovanni's business dealings and find out how he had made his fortune. We travelled with him back to Italy. Though brought up in England and educated at public school, he still considers himself Italian and travels back to Rome whenever he can to be with his wife and children.
You don't need this jacket. You're in Rome, you're not in London.
I know, but I've got my wallet, that's got to stay close to me.
Miriana is Giovanni's second wife. They met in the former Yugoslavia.
It's either they do it my way or they don't, find someone else, because that's the only way. I mean, it's a serious criminal conviction. But in the old days, you could only be indicted for one murder, because if you indict someone with 50 murders, what do you think the jury's going to think?
You can't say that you don't feel scared. It's scaring because all the phone calls when he comes home, even on Sunday, they are all from prison. All the time I hear, oh, someone was shot or killed, or some stabbing, poisoning is... Sometimes I ask, how can you all the time do this? He said, that is my job.
All right, and send him my regards. Thank you. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.
Does your fee vary per client, or...?
It is a high fee. I mean, I don't come cheap. But on the other hand, it's not what you pay, it's the quality of work that you do.
How much do you charge?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea on that. But it's obviously sufficient to be able to... Ballpark, about £1 an hour.
He later revealed that one client had paid him £3 million for taking up his case.
Into the home, out comes my client's stuff.
Whilst being cagey about how much he was earning, he wasn't cagey about how much he was spending.
Out we come. This is of the HMS Vengeance. It's got the photographs of the Vengeance, the agreement, and here it is. If you want to have a look at that here in the cool light of day, you see it's the aircraft carrier, the one that I'm buying. There it is there, that's picture 1. Picture 2.
Why are you buying an aircraft carrier?
Picture 3 for asylum seekers and to house 300 people from Her Majesty's NICs.
He's supposedly buying the aircraft carrier with his client, Nicholas Van Hoogstraten.
The ship is not exorbitantly expensive. It will come in at just over £2 million. And you've got space for 1,000 asylum seekers at £75 to £100 per week. It's not a bad deal.
It defied belief. An Italian lawyer and a notorious landlord were clubbing together to buy a Royal Navy aircraft carrier.
Oh, the best one of all, you fucking hell.
And there was more to come. Not wanting to be outdone by other mega-millionaires, he's investing in the latest fashion accessory, a British football club.
Read the first 2 paragraphs, please. Read it out loud.
Millionaire Dundee fan Giovanni Di Stefano, worth 300 million, will be at Hampden today as Jim Duffy's side attempt to halt Rangers' treble bid.
Yeah, actually, I've written to the Inland Revenue because I'm pretty much annoyed, really. I mean, they say here, worth 300 million. Well, as I've been paying tax on 450 million, I want rebate.
Play the game.
Giovanni has often claimed he's worth £450 million. It was time to press him on exactly how he had made it.
I have been very, very lucky in the people that I've met, in the circumstances, the timing, the times were right. So I've been very lucky.
You were being evasive. How did you earn your millions?
Well, I just told you I've been very lucky in the different sectors that I've been involved in. I have been extremely lucky and successful.
He says he was a millionaire in his 20s, importing videos into the UK from Hong Kong, and that by his late 30s he had made hundreds of millions through business dealings in Hollywood.
Well, it's been well documented. There were 3 Italians who basically purchased Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in 1990 from Kurt Kerkorian. When we closed the deal in New York, many people thought that there was money of that came from organised crime. It was money that it wasn't. We just borrowed it. The bank weren't fully aware that we were going to borrow it, but borrow it we did.
But didn't it end all a bit sour?
Not for me, it didn't. It was very, very sweet. It's wonderful pie, MGM pie.
After the reported acquisition of film studios MGM, Giovanni's Italian partners were charged in the US with multiple counts of fraud, tax evasion and money laundering, while Giovanni boasted a $200 million profit and no mention on any of the indictments. However, he was later deported from the US as an undesirable alien.
I followed everything to the book. The fact that I mix with criminals doesn't make me one. I'm their lawyer.
Giovanni also mixes with big-name criminals in Italy. We were hoping he would shed some light on his relationship with them.
So do you know kind of powerful people either side of the law in Italy?
Of course I do, yeah.
And the mafia families, do they know of you? Have they called on your services?
Well, that goes without saying. Obviously, by the nature of my profession, I know them, I'm acquainted with them, I have no business with them other than my representation. So, you know, it's important to have an acquaintanceship as best as possible without compromising one's position with everybody, and to be as, you know, with as many friends, have friends instead of enemies. Do not make enemies. It's very dangerous in Italy. You end up dead.
Giovanni invites us, along with his friends and family, to his favourite restaurant.
Bessami, bessami mucho.
So who's a picture of?
Well, that's obviously Benito Mussolini.
I mean, do you have like fascist beliefs?
Beliefs in the ideology of the Partito Nazionale Fascista, yeah, for sure. Because the Italians between 1920 and 1935 were one of the most loved races. In diplomacy, they led the world. In sport, They won the World Cup twice, 34, 38. In every single thing, the ideology of let's do it right. But Mussolini closed the borders. He didn't have the brain drain. He kept out those that were not Italian. And only those that deserved to be Italian had a passport. Otherwise, what do you need a passport for? Where are you going?
So do you admire Mussolini?
Absolutely.
Later that night, Giovanni talked more openly about what happened to his business partners after the MGM deal went sour.
I really struck lucky there. 2 of them in jail, 2 of them are bankrupt. I got $249 million. What did I do with the money? And I thought, right, I'll go to Yugoslavia because these people might kill me. So I thought to myself, strategically, where is the best place to go and just lay low for a while where someone isn't going to come? Well, a war zone. Who the hell's going to come looking for you in a war zone?
In spring 1992, Giovanni fled the United States and set up business in war-torn Yugoslavia. At the time, a Serbian warlord known as Arkan was one of the country's richest and most powerful men. And guess who became his new lawyer and business partner?
He's a lovely man. He was such a great man.
Having just walked into Yugoslavia, how did you get to meet people like Arkan so quickly?
It must be the talent. It was Noel Coward that said he had a talent to amuse. I have a talent, not to amuse, but a talent to profit.
Arkan, too, had a talent to profit. In the 70s, he was a wanted man across Europe for armed robbery and extortion. In the 80s, he rose to become head of the Serbian mafia. By the 90s, he had his own private army, reputed to have massacred thousands of Muslims. For this, Arkan was dubbed the Butcher of Belgrade.
Well, I mean, I helped politically, diplomatically, the contacts that I'd established. You know, I was an advisor, one of many people who delivered advice if, as and when it was required.
What kind of things did you advise him over?
Well, all the problems that we had, hell's bells. I mean, you know, you had hell of a choice.
Did you ever meet Arkan?
Yeah.
What was he like?
Top bloke.
Yeah?
No, it really, really was. The nicest man, one of the nicest men I ever met. Besides everything that people said that he may or may not have done, I thought he was the nicest man I ever met.
Wasn't he supposedly a gangster, though?
He knew a lot of people, if that's what you want to call it. He knew a lot of people, yeah. But then my dad knows a lot of people as well. People, suppose you could call him a gangster because he knows lots of people. But,
is he?
Yeah. What does knowing a lot of people mean?
How would you define a gangster?
How would I define a gangster? Person who associates with more than one person. Because it's a gang, so it's a plural of a gang of a clan, isn't it?
And just obviously, for those who don't know, what happens at Arkan?
What happened to him,
Yeah.
like what happens to all of us, we die.
But how did he die?
Well, hopefully not like I end up to all of us, but the result is the same. He was shot in the Intercontinental Hotel.
Arkan's death came as a disappointment to the West. He was due to face charges at The Hague for mass murder and war profiteering.
When the media have kind of seen Arkan and they called him a butcher and he laughed as he killed, what do you have to say to that?
Cobblers. Rubbish. But yeah, he's seen as that because the media, we always have to have a Satan. You cannot possibly have a good if you don't have a bad, because you've got nothing to measure it with.
1 and 2. The last time that you were here, you made, say, what lovely chairs. These were a gift from His Excellency President Saddam Hussein. They were sent from Amman in Jordan to me, and they have followed me since 1998, and I'm very, very proud of that, and I don't think it's ostentatious. It's nothing it is a sign of appreciation there. I still believe today, in July, that he is the rightful elected president of Iraq.
Giovanni's profit-making talent also caught the attention of Saddam Hussein. He's sketchy about the trade deals he set up between heavily sanctioned Yugoslavia and heavily sanctioned Iraq. But they supposedly involved airlines, banks and construction.
So, when you met him, what did you think of him?
Well, I've always said he's a nice guy. You know, he is so did Galloway say that. I mean, there isn't a person that can speak bad about him.
55 years of hatred and rage as they jump up on the statue, trouncing it with anything. Oh.
Well, what about all the kind of Shias that he assassinated?
What about them? I don't know, I didn't see any. My business is minding my own business, and that's it. It's best if you keep like that.
We'd been on a surreal journey with Giovanni as we'd unearthed his past. But when we thought we'd got to the bottom of what was motivating him, the story took on a new twist. His latest would-be client wasn't a potential business partner or a mega-millionaire, but Britain's biggest serial killer.
I mean, does he look like a guilty man to you?
Who?
Harold Shipman. Does he look like a guilty man?
Guilty of murdering 15 of his patients, Harold Shipman is sentenced to life. Among Britain's worst serial killers, he may have killed scores more.
I mean, this is absolutely bloody outrageous.
He enjoyed the ultimate power of controlling life and death.
If this man is truly innocent, he has been seriously wronged.
A cold-blooded perversion of medical skills.
And in my view, it's something that needs to be seriously reviewed. I'm going to do an interview on BBC's breakfast programme at 7 o'clock.
Claiming to have taken Shipman's appeal, Giovanni's been inundated by phone calls from stunned journalists who presumed his conviction was watertight.
Leave aside that it's Harold Shipman. If it had been Harold Smith, no one would have been any wiser. He's entitled to a proper trial, fair trial, which I don't think he got. Not important to win. It's just to get to appeal is fucking right up their backside. Poi mi odiano, me lo sai, me frega un cazzo, perché c'ho più clienti.
Giovanni meant getting up the backside of the British legal establishment. It seemed he was using notorious criminals like Shipman to humiliate Britain in any way possible. It wasn't about justice. It wasn't even the money. This was una vendetta, revenge. You have spent time in British prison, haven't you?
Was acquitted.
But you have spent time in British prison?
Yeah, but I was acquitted subsequently. So where's the problem?
But at the time, what were you found guilty of?
Fraudulent trading.
For what?
I would undergo foreign exchange transactions in sterling, receive sterling in London and pay in dollars in Chicago and in New York. Now, the allegation or the thought from the government, from MI6, was that those dollars were being used to buy arms subsequently by the banks and their customers. Whether I knew, whether I should have known or whether I could have known, in my view, was irrelevant. And the Court of Appeal said that's right.
But this winter, the Scotland on Sunday newspaper published a document showing that Giovanni lost that appeal and served out his sentence for fraud. Giovanni claims the document is a forgery, another stitch-up by the British establishment.
I don't think he'll ever forget it, ever at all, and I think to a certain sense it's something that drives him. You treated me like, excuse me for saying it, but you treated me like shit, and now I will have my revenge. You know, it's lucky that he's a person of strong character and he didn't let any of it affect him. He turned it all into positive energy and sent himself in a good direction.
I'm joined now from our London studio by Giovanni Di Stefano, the Italian lawyer behind Shipman's freedom bid. Mr. Di Stefano, assuming he's granted leave to appeal, he's no chance of winning it, has he?
Well, it would be wrong and seriously flawed to commence an appeal on the basis that simply because his name is Dr. Harold Shipman, he should not win his appeal.
Can I ask you about your own position? Because the Law Society has cast some doubt on whether you're entitled to act for Shipman because you haven't proved to them you're a qualified lawyer.
EC Directive 77/249 allows all foreign lawyers the right to practice in each other's jurisdictions.
Well, the Law Society say they're still waiting to hear from you with some evidence of your qualifications.
If you allow me to finish, please.
Do you have a degree in law?
Yes.
Right. Where did you study?
Why do you want to ask all these questions? I'm not going to answer these questions for you.
Right.
No, I'm not going to go there because this is exactly what the state have wanted of me. Right. I am a qualified lawyer. I'm a member of the American Bar Association. I am a fully registered member of the International Bar Association. Yeah. Let's not go any more than that because I'm not going to follow that line that the state and that desperately want to go. Not going to do it.
Where did your father study?
He did a few things. He was it Cambridge a bit. I haven't actually ever spoken to him about it, to be honest with you. But you know, he was in Cambridge. I think he started off doing some medicine courses or chemistry or something like that, and then I suppose he got bored and changed the law. But a lot of my dad, it's very difficult to teach him anything because he's a self-taught person, and that's a great ability. If you can teach yourself, you know, most things, then that's a fantastic trait.
But you are a qualified lawyer, aren't you?
Of course. Yeah. Otherwise, even more interesting, or what makes an even greater story, how is it that an amateur has defeated the Crown on two of the greatest cases that they've ever had? So if they want to think that I'm not, let them think I'm not. If they want to think I am, think I am. I really don't give a damn.
Giovanni claims he has currently 37 clients appealing conviction in British prisons. It made us wonder, was there anyone out there he wouldn't represent? We had one more question to ask.
If Adolf Hitler was alive and he was convicted at Nuremberg and he asked you to appeal, would you take the case?
Indubitably, without her, I wouldn't even need to be, wouldn't even need to think about that there. Adolf Hitler, we need to understand one thing about Mr. Hitler. Not a single document has ever been found which would connect with a signature, with an acknowledgement, a memo or anything, Adolf Hitler with those heinous crimes. And on that basis, if we had to work within the law, then